Hi and welcome to episode 3 in the series of the Back to Basics with the Mini 2 SE. So we've got everything checked, we've checked the environments, we've checked all our settings, we are good to go. So what we're going to do is get the drone in the air. I'm going to have a look at all that data, all that information on the flight display. We're going to see what it does and how it helps us. So let's get going. Okay, so before we go taking off, let's just have a quick overview of the information we've got on the flight display. So starting in the top left, we can see what mode we're flying in. At the moment we're in normal mode. If you do switch modes during flight, that will tell you which mode you're in there. Next to it, we've got the message that tells us that our takeoff is permitted. It's almost ready to go there. We've got the battery indicator, and that number in the middle is the percentage of battery we have remaining. And next to that, we also have a timer. So once the drone is in the air, we will be given a time left until the battery is completely depleted. Of course, we want our drone home safe and sound way before that reaches zero. Next up, we've got the signal strength between the controller and the drone. So we want to make sure we keep an eye on that just in case. If you're in a nice open area with no obstructions, then yeah, you should be able to maintain a good signal there. And then next to that is the number of satellites that the drone has locked onto, gathering all that vital GPS information to keep the drone nice and steady. Moving on over to the left of the screen, we have our takeoff icon. Now, once the drone is in flight, that icon will be replaced with a landing icon. And from there, we can access the auto land mode or the return to home mode. And we'll go into those a little bit later as well. The bottom left corner of the screen, we have our little compass, which also shows our location, the controller's location, and its home point. Again, once we're in the air and we've got a bit of distance, that'll all become a little bit more clear. It's from there we can also access the maps. But again, we will cover that a little bit later. Moving over then to the right slightly, we've got all these numbers, and this is basically our camera settings. Now, I'm in manual mode at the moment, so in there I can choose what shutter speed, what ISO I want to set for my camera. There's all sorts of information down there. We won't go too much into camera settings in this video. We'll save that for another video, because that is quite in depth. If you prefer, switch it over to auto, and yeah, not have to worry about it. But yeah, down there, as you can see, we've got the resolution that we're filming in. We've got the frames per second, and again, all those other camera settings there. And then finally, then on the right hand side of the screen, we've got all of our camera options. So whether we're going to take a video, whether we're going to take a picture, it's also from here that we can access some of the sub menus for things like the quick shots and the panoramic pictures. So yeah, again, we'll save all of those, all of that for another video. Again, it's quite a lot to sort of cover. We're just going to cover the basics of the flight today. Okay, so to take off is incredibly straightforward, and it's a two-step process, as you will see. If you tap the takeoff icon on the left side of the screen, you'll be presented with another takeoff icon right in the middle there, where you need to tap and hold just for a second until it's completely highlighted, and then the motors will spin and the drone will lift just over a meter above the ground. So again, it ensures that you can't accidentally tap the takeoff icon when you're not ready to go. And it also gives you a small window of opportunity. If something in your environment changes suddenly and you need to abort your takeoff, again, you can do that quite easily. Just let go of the button before it's reached, before it's fully highlighted, and you're all safe and sound. Okay, so with the drone hovering there just above the meter, what you can do is on the left control stick, if you just push forward, the drone will then begin to ascend. Now again, it just gives you the opportunity now, with a little bit of altitude there, you can get used to the controls, working out what they all do. So you can obviously bank left and right, you can rotate left and right, and obviously move the drone forwards and backwards. So again, perfect opportunity then just to get used to the controls, just nice, smooth, slow inputs until you get yourself familiar with what they all do. And then of course to descend, very, very straightforward. Just push down on the left control stick and the drone will begin to descend. All right, so let's have a quick look at the flight speed. So as soon as you've got the drone then flying away from you, you'll notice then the indicator at the bottom there, the distance you can measure there in meters, and you'll notice above there you've got the flight speed measured in meters per second. And again, sometimes you need to pay close attention to this, especially if perhaps it's a little bit windy. Now, like I said before, ideally we want nice calm conditions with no wind. On today's flights, of course, it is a little bit windy, and so it is a good idea to keep an eye on that, because of course if you're flying off into the distance and perhaps you think your drone's moving a little bit quicker than it should, it might indicate that you've got a tailwind, which is all fun and games when you're flying, but when it's time to bring the drone home, it's going to encounter a headwind, and that's where you need to be very, very careful, because with a headwind, if the drone isn't reaching the speed it should do, it might not have enough battery to make it home safe. So that's why we tend to keep an eye on the speeds there. So really important is your battery levels. So if you tap on your battery indicator at the top there, you will see it'll give you 3 different times, and basically what they are is the time until the drone will begin returning to home automatically. There's also the time that the drone will begin landing wherever it is automatically, and then the time before the battery is completely depleted. So again, if you're just starting out, as soon as that return to home notification comes up and tells you to bring the drone back, personally I would bring the drone back. Again, until you start getting a little bit more confident, yeah, I wouldn't be pushing it too much. I mean, even now I tend to bring the drone back, even though I know I've got a little bit more power in the battery and I could spend a little bit more time up there. Yeah, I wouldn't risk it. I bring the drone back and then I've got my other battery, I'll put my other battery in, be done with it. I really wouldn't risk it. Again, if you do encounter any winds at the higher altitude, of course these times are all based on the calculation of how far the drone is away, how far has it got to travel to get back to the home point. And it can take all of these into account to give you this calculated time, but one thing it can't take into account is the wind speed. So if it does encounter a headwind, you know, it may be a case that the drone just can't reach the required speed and doesn't have enough battery to make it back home. So you may have noticed the little scroll wheel on the back of the controller, and what that will do is just alter the pitch of the camera, and again you can pitch it all the way down so you've got a bird's eye view, and you can also pitch it straight up level, and you can also increase it I think another 30 degrees up. So again, really nice little feature to capture those really nice video shots, nice smooth movements that work really, really well. Okay, so the little compass in the bottom left corner there, as you can see, if you tap on it, you can change it to a map. Now, whether you use Apple Maps or Google Maps, you can see that your drone and its flight is all being recorded there. You can see the flight path or the previous flight path of the drone, where it's been, and whatnot. And you can see you still got the little preview there in the bottom left corner there, so you can still see a live view of the drone. But yeah, you really see all this information. You can see where the drone is, you can see where you are and where the home point is. You can also see the orientation of the drone. You can even see the orientation of yourself. So again, if you're losing your bearings perhaps, you can bring up this map and you can have a little look and work out where everything is. You can also see that pink line, and effectively that is the flight path. If the return to home is activated, that is where it's going to fly. So if you do notice on the map that it's going to come anywhere near perhaps an obstacle that you haven't accounted for when you're setting it all up, again, at least you can take some action there to save the drone. Now again, if you're really interested in all the flight data, what you can do is you can export that and you can pop it into some other software, and you can actually have a look and inspect all of the flight data in so much detail, certainly down to how your batteries are operating during the flight. It is quite interesting. If that's something that interests you, I'm going to make another video at some point in the future. Again, I was quite fascinated with the beginning. I didn't realize the drone actually captured so much data data, so much flight data for you to analyze later on. So if that's something you're into, hopefully soon I'll pop a video up with all of that. Okay, so landing the drone, incredibly easy. Again, once you've flown the drone back to where you are, if it's hovering just above you, then simply push down on the left control stick and the drone will begin its descent. And now, as soon as it gets just above the ground, what it will tend to do is just stop and hover. What you need to do then is release the stick back to the middle position and then pull down on the left stick again, and you'll get an audible message to say that it is landing, and again it will just put itself on the ground. Now what you can do, instead of doing that, if you've flown the drone back and it's hovering above you somewhere, then what you can do is tap the land icon on the left hand side. You'll be presented again with another landing icon, and tap and hold like you did with the takeoff until the icon is fully highlighted and the drone will begin to auto land. So again, it will come down to just above ground level, and again, if those sensors on the bottom of the drone there decide that it's a suitable surface to land on, then it'll go ahead and proceed to land. If it thinks it isn't suitable, it'll tell you that the auto land is not available, and you'll have to do that manually, literally by pushing down on the left control stick for a manual landing. Now again, the return to home feature will only work if you've got a bit of distance between you and the drone. So again, even if you are at 120 meters high, but you're directly above the home point, the return to home feature you won't have an option to use it. So again, that will only work if you've got a bit of distance. I don't know exactly what the distance is, but it's certainly sort of maybe 10, 15, 20 meters away at least, to have the option to use return to home. And again, that's your other option to bring the drone back. If you're a couple hundred meters away somewhere, and you just want the drone to fly itself back, then again, just tap that left icon, and you'll be presented with two options. One is to land and one is to return to home. Again, just tap and hold until it's fully illuminated, and then the drone will begin the maneuver. So there we go, back to basics. Covered quite a bit there, and again, there's probably so much more to cover as well. I do want to create another video on all the camera settings and video settings. It's something that interests me, so yes, I will be putting another video together about that. So hopefully you'll join me for that. If you enjoyed the series, please like, subscribe, drop me a comment, let me know your thoughts. If there's anything else you want to see, anything I've missed out, please, I'd love to hear it, and perhaps I can make another follow-up video later on. But until then, take care of yourselves, safe flying. Bye bye now.